Hi, and welcome to an introductory video for the CADD Prizm pump. The goal here is just to go through just the very basics of the pump, and we will go through things in more detail and answer your questions when we are together in person. So first I just want to point out the main components of the system, if you will. Of course, we have the pump here. We have the medication cassette. There's a bag in here that houses the medication. Normally there would be a label on the cassette. This is just a test, so it doesn't have a label, but normally it would have a label with the patient's name and the medication, concentration, and orders and such. We have extension tubing, which plugs into the pigtail that comes off of the medication cassette. The pump is powered by a 9-volt battery, and there is a key that latches the cassette to the pump and then locks the pump. And I first just want to put out a disclaimer that my video making skills are very much in their infancy, so thank you for your patience as we go along here. So the first thing is that when you are setting up a pump, either initially or changing a cassette, one thing to just pay attention to and to inspect is on a new cassette is to make sure there are no cracks in the box itself, and to also look to see if there's any air in the bag inside. And if there is air that's bigger than the size of a dime, we want to get that air out by attaching a syringe to the pigtail here, and we'll talk about that more when we're in person, but just want you to be aware of that. And of course, again, there would be a label here. I'll show you another cassette just as an example here. But this is a 250 ml cassette, and it has a patient's name and ordering physician, medication, the concentration, and the orders. So you just want to double check the cassette with what the most current orders are. Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is when you, again, are changing tubing or attaching a new cassette. First, we want to attach the extension tubing to the pigtail. The end of the pigtail is a female end. The extension tubing has the male end. And I just want to point out on the extension tubing here, there are two ends. Oops. There's a blue and a light purple. The purple goes to the patient. It has a one-way valve on it to prevent siphoning. So I always remember purple to patient. And if it gets reversed, you'll get a high pressure alarm from the pump. So we want to attach the extension tubing to the medication cassette. And then the end here, the end that goes to the patient, the purple going to the patient, will attach into the sub-Q catheter. So this is the packaging that the sub-Q catheter comes in. It is a 24 gauge butterfly needle here, and the guide wire gets pulled out through this here once you have the needle in the patient. And this is the part that the extension tubing will get plugged into. So this would come out. You'll attach this here. And so you want all of these pieces together so that we can prime the tubing prior to putting it on the patient. So now I've got all of my tubing attached to the medication cassette. And of course, when we're setting this up, everything is going to be sterile, but not so for our purposes here. So the first thing that we need to do is to get the pump turned on, and we do that by putting the battery in. And so the battery is housed on the side here, and this little white button here you need to push in, and then this door here is going to pull up. That. And then you'll see here on the pump that it shows the positive and negative sides of the battery, so you want to match those up. So positive to positive, this in here. And I always like to warn the patient and family that when I'm setting up a pump, it's going to make some beeping sounds, and that's okay. And you need to kind of hold this in while we're getting the door attached here. So it's going to slide down. And once you do that, the pump's going to go through some self-checks. So while it's doing that, you'll notice here that there's two lights at the top. This is a yellow light. It will be anyway, and this is a green light. The green light, when it's beeping, indicates that the pump is running. Yellow light means that it needs some attention. And so again, when you first turn it on, it's just going to go through some self-checks, and you just need to let it do that. And while it's going through its self-checks, I'm going to show you how to attach the medication cassette to the pump itself. Before I do that, I first want to say that when the pump arrives from the infusion pharmacy, it does already come programmed, should already come programmed with the orders that we are instituting. So we'll let it finish going through its automatic review. It says self-tests are complete. Power up successful. So this is a bit of an alarming noise. So again, you just want to warn the patient and family about that. So to attach the cassette here, what I want to show you is on the bottom of the pump here, there are a couple of dowels, and on the medication cassette, there are a couple of, I call them feet. And those feet hook right under the dowels. So that's how it gets attached. So we're going to kind of slide the feet underneath those dowels. And you need to put some downward pressure to be able to get this to latch. So I'll turn this over here. I'm going to find my key. And the side edge of the key fits perfectly into side of this dial here, so you need to push it in, turn it all the way up. Sometimes it takes a couple of turns to get it all the way. So you'll see here that now this vertical line is lined up with this solid dot. Solid dot means that it's locked. And we also need to do the same thing with the actual lock of the pump. This means this is an indicator that the pump is attached to the medication cassette. Now we need to actually lock the pump, and we do that with the other end of the key, putting this in here and turning until you hear it click. You'll also see in here that there's a little tiny white dot on the inside of this black dial that now lines up with the solid white dot on the pump. So it's locked. And you'll see here that it says the cassette is locked. And I need to change my setup here just a little bit so you can see. This is part of my video skills in their infancy. Okay, cassette is locked. Press next to continue. So I'm going to press next. And it says reset reservoir volume to 100 mLs, and I'm going to say yes. Press yes or no. Yes. So it's resetting. And it says start the pump. First, what I want to do is I want to prime the pump. And to do that, I need to be in a level called lock level 0. So there's two lock levels. There's lock level 0, which is the level that we need to be in to make any kind of changes, prime tubing. Lock level 2 is the level that we want to leave the pump in when it's with the patient and we are not in the home making any changes, because when the pump's in lock level 2, no changes can be made. So first, I want to say I do not want to start the pump. When I'm changing lock levels, the pump must be stopped. So I do not want to start the pump right now. I want to push lock. And whenever I'm changing lock levels, I'm using the lock button. Okay, so sorry, I need to back up. I need to say no, I don't want to start the pump. So you'll see that I'm in stopped mode here. Now I can change the lock level. Pressing lock. So right now I'm in lock level 2. I want to go to lock level 0. So I need to press the down arrow until I get to lock level 0. Press lock again. And it's asking me for a lock level code, which is 061. So you need to press the up button because you'll see I'm at 000. And I want to hold it down till I get to 061. If I overshoot it or undershoot it, I overshot it there. I just need to get on down to 061 and then hit lock again. Now it'll say changing to lock level 0. Now I can make changes. I can say prime the tubing. So I want to prime my tubing, so I need to hit the options button. And I want to stop here for just a moment and say, as you're watching this video, don't try to remember everything, or I wouldn't suggest trying to remember everything, because there are a lot of steps and you're going to get opportunities to get your hands on this pump in the office and then also out in the field before we ever send you out to set up one of these on your own. Okay, so going back, we want to prime this tubing. It should come primed from the pharmacy, but I don't count on it, and always just double check and make sure that it indeed is. And so I'm gonna, so it says prime is my option. It says press the up or down button if you want to change to another option, or if prime is what you want, you press enter. So I'm gonna press enter. And it's gonna remind you to disconnect tubing from patient and make sure all of your clamps are open. So I'm gonna go through and open all of my clamps. This one's already open. This one is open as well. Okay, I'm gonna hold, of course, keeping everything sterile, of course, and wait till I see the fluid come through. So the pump will tell you here, hold Y to prime. So I'm gonna press Y and I'm gonna hold it while it's priming. And just for demonstration purposes, I'm gonna say that I've seen the level, my fluid come through the end of my catheter here. So I'm gonna let go. Say continue priming, and I'll say no because I'm already primed. And now I am ready to insert this into my patient and get the pump going. So we'll talk about this more in person, but essentially you would first, of course, find the spot that you want to place the catheter in. And again, this is a sub-Q catheter, so generally speaking, you're looking to maybe the back of the arm, maybe the abdomen, sometimes the thigh. It really just depends on the patient, how mobile they are or not, and their body habitus and where you've got enough sub-Q fat. And so you would get the bevel up, which is difficult to see sometimes, depending on your eyesight, and insert it into the patient at a very, very small degree. We're just going sub-Q. Once it's in the patient, you'll of course secure everything down, and your pump will be ready to start. So when you're ready to start the pump, you're just going to go to stop start. Ask if you want to start the pump. You'll say yes, and it will start the pump. And before it does that, it's going to go again through an automatic review, and again let it go through and just verify everything again to make sure that your order is right, the concentration is right. In this case, it's 4 milligrams per hour continuously. The demand dose is 2 milligrams. Lockout is every 10 minutes for a max dose per hour of 6. So if everything looks okay, it's also giving us some attempts and given numbers. It's reviewing lock levels with us. And it says auto lock is changing to lock level 2. So these pumps can be set up so that it will automatically revert to lock level 2, so that no changes can be made to the pump. That's something you do definitely want to double check and make sure that when you leave, that the pump is in lock level 2. Okay, so now it tells us it's running, and there's 3 ways to tell that it's running. The green light here is beeping, or not beeping, flashing, excuse me. The pump says that it's running, and if we were to watch, we would see the residual volume dropping. And those are the 3 things that you want to review with the family so that they can be rest assured that the pump is running. You've got the green light, says it's running, and then they can also watch the residual volume dropping. You do want to make sure that the patient and or family know how to communicate to us what the residual volume is. Sometimes we may make a phone call to determine when we need to order a cassette. So if we're calling them or we're not actually in the home, we need them to be able to tell us what that is. So when the pump is not being actively used or the keypad is not, it's still running, and we know so because the green light is on, but it's not actively being manipulated. The screen will go blank, and we can just press any button to make the display come up again. So again, you want to make sure that the patient and or family know how to do that and be able to read the residual volume and communicate that to us. So alarms on the pump, the most common alarms are going to be a low battery alarm or a high pressure or occlusion alarm. So one thing that you do want to teach the family is how to change the battery. The battery needs to be changed every 2 to 3 days. So please be sure that you review that with them, because if there's an alarm that the battery needs to be changed, we want to empower them to be able to do that. So if it's the middle of the night, they're not waiting on us to get there. And we've reviewed that with them, and we will always have extra batteries, of course, in the home. Okay, so I think those are the main components that I just wanted to introduce to you. Again, we're going to talk more in person and go through things in more detail and answer any questions you have. But I'm hoping that this, at the very least, has given you kind of an idea of the pump and an introduction to it. One thing that I am going to put here in front of the screen is our PCA infusion flow sheet, which will be in every home that has a pump. And this is something that we want to document on each time that we are in the home as a way to double check that the correct medication is infusing at the correct dose. We also will record residual volume with each visit. Again, we're recording all the orders. We're going to record doses given versus attempted. We do want to clear the dose counters with every visit as well. We will review that in person. And if we gave a clinician bolus, if we did that, to document that. If we changed the battery, the cassette, if we had to waste any medication, and if we changed the site. The site itself needs to be changed every 3 to 7 days, and if it's going to go longer than every 3 days, we need to get a physician's order for it to stay in longer than 3 days. And again, I think that's what we'll cover for today, and I hope that you found this helpful, and I will be seeing you in person soon. Thank you.